Good morning and welcome to the Microfocus podcast. My name is Daniel Robus and I'll be your host through this six-part series where we are upping the game on cybersecurity and knowledge around what the threats are and how we can deal with them. We are kicking off today's series with a guest from one of the customers, Kris Budnik, Group CISO for FirstRand Bank. It's a real privilege to have you here with us to kick this off in the right way, in the right manner, which is actually that the customer is at the center of our journey. Kris, CISO, for me, it was like I have to think about this, and then you explained it to me. How did you get into the role of Chief Information Security Officer?
Well, good question, actually, and not probably one of a bit of a journey. So I guess I became part of my client's team. So I served as a consultant for many years, working with both Deloitte and PwC, ran the security practice there. And one of my most recent engagements before I moved over to FirstRand Bank was actually doing some advisory work for the bank. Somehow we liked each other. I liked what I was saying. They liked what I was saying. I liked the team. So we had a meeting of minds and I signed up for, for the journey. It's a little bit about, learning what it's like on the other side. It's, transitioning from advisory to having to now deliver on what you think is the right thing to do. It was a challenge and I'm enjoying it.
That's amazing. And the ever-changing environment from a security perspective, it must be quite hard for you to stay ahead of the game. How do you do that?
Well, that's one of the biggest challenges, is that it's, it does come across as being very dynamic, ever-changing environment. One of the biggest challenges, I guess, you have is being able to respond within an organization the size of FirstRand Bank. And, dude, let's face it, we will never be as agile as a cyber criminal. We have customers to service. We have to maintain a consistency of service. We have to, maintain reliability. And those things are sometimes contrary to being agile. That biggest challenge, I think, of trying to secure a bank or any other organization for that matter, is to build a security program that can transcend and withstand the rapid changes of that we are experiencing. So how do you make your cybersecurity program resilient against rapid change and actually respond to something that changes quite often? That is one of the biggest challenges.
I love that answer. You're talking around withstanding the rapid change. And what I see is almost the CISO as the guardian at the gate with shield and sword, protecting from this constant threat of attack and threat of, you repelling the barbarians at the gates the whole time. It's actually a pretty cool picture. But do you ever feel alone in this? Or is there a tribe of you that are together doing this in the bank and the financial services sector and South Africa? Or is it really you on your own?
No, and that's a very good point. It's not. This is not heroics. You can't alone do this. And so it is very much a team effort. There is a team of security operations and IT operations people that have to and are contributing to this, to keep the barbarians out. Our staff, this, it sounds cliched, but, if you're going to be cyber secure, you need everybody to be on board. Everybody needs to be savvy. They all, and I'm talking about every single employee, every single IT operations and security operations person, every single leader has a contribution to make. And that's it's a double-edged sword. When you have such a combined effort, it takes extra effort to coordinate it too. But you certainly can't do it alone. That day is long gone. This is too complex an organization and too complex a topic.
So it's a team sport that we're in here. It's a team effort. The title of this episode is Everyone Needs to Be Cyber Savvy. And I think, again, that's laying the foundation for where we're going. What does it mean to be cyber savvy to you?
It means being streetwise. It means being practical. It means resisting hype. It means resisting headlines, maintaining an even response despite the level of noise out there, staying calm under pressure. All of those things are very important, and they are important not just for me in order to maintain kind of the spearhead and being able to lead our effort, but also our leadership and our staff. We must all wise up, and part of that is maybe I'll put it in another way. I look at how cybersecurity incidents begin, how a breach occurs, and 8 times out of 10, it's because we're just not alert enough to the bad guys trying to extract information from us. We're either too busy or too rushed or too naive sometimes, and that's how they establish the beachhead. So it's about being savvy, being educated, and being smart.
Okay, savvy, educated, and smart. That's cyber savvy. If we're talking about, then, is that understanding what the threat landscape is made up of across your organization and understanding your role to play in it? My next question is like, who needs to be cyber savvy and why, and what are the roles that are played by these different stakeholders?
Yeah. So that's and that's really where it boils down to kind of being practical as well. So we don't all need to be cybersecurity experts, but we all need to be alert. We all need to be and understand that there are individuals out there, cyber criminals, wishing to take advantage of our moment of weakness. So if you're staff, understand that you could that there are going to be emails being sent to you or other communications that may come across as being very convincing, that may come across as being very authoritative, but you need to just take that extra moment, be savvy, in order to resist the temptation to process the email instead of understanding exactly what it is that's being sent to you, and understand exactly whether you should be interacting with that message or not, right? So just be a little bit more skeptical. So that's at the staff level. We don't ask you to be a technical expert. We're just asking you to take your time. At the same time, if you're in part of the leadership team, it's about being able to being aware of the headlines, understanding what the noise levels are that are out there, and then tweaking your business response accordingly, but at the same time not allowing yourself to be taken in by the hype. One of the biggest challenges that a guy like me having to coordinate a program has is to try and keep all the stakeholders comfortable and confident around the security program. And what is often difficult for me is to be able to provide assurance that our program is still relevant when the landscape changes so frequently.
So let me pause you there. You were going down a really a deep hole, and you touched on something I was very interested in. The leadership needs to know what's out there and when to act. Where do they get that information from? If I'm a line of business manager and I've got I'm doing customer acquisitions and I'm doing onboarding and I've got papaya compliance and I've got all of this going, who tells me what's going on out there? Is that Kris's job, or do they go, or do you have a source, a fountain of knowledge for them?
There are multiple sources. I think we live in a digital age, so we are being pushed quite a lot of information all the time. And I think whether you like it or not, you're going to be facing news and media articles and news stories that talk about cyber breaches. And it's across the board. These things are happening at a very high rate. You're being flooded with this information. So I'm almost asking for the opposite. It's that kind of stay calm, be calm
Yes.
type scenario. Yes, there is lots of activity.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a very dynamic environment. Everybody's getting hacked to pieces. Don't panic.
Yeah. What are we going to
Yeah.
do? And then they do nothing. Yeah. Okay.
Well, and that's it. Well, what can happen is that, especially the more senior you are in an organization, that panic can result in a hell of a lot of activity that also provides very little assurance at the end of the day. So being able to stay calm and collected and trust your teams and the people that you have with you, whom you've delegated this responsibility to do the right thing.
Yes.
By
So
all means, ask the
what
question.
does a cyber savvy approach to security look like in a sentence? Give me a sound bite that we can use on a pre-sales document.
So thinking about that a little bit, I would imagine, a cyber savvy organization acknowledges that it is a dynamic environment to which you have to respond. But in order to be effective, you have to remain calm. You have to remain confident in your actions. And you have to be, I guess, resolute in what are you going to do next. So
I love that. What role does technology play in this approach to making our people cyber savvy?
Having the right technology in place is almost a ticket to the game. Okay. We've mentioned already that that it's a very fast-moving environment. If you are going to react and remain calm under pressure, you need the tools on hand that allow you to contain an event or allow you to mitigate against it. So having the right capabilities is fundamental to having a robust resilience program.
So it's no longer good enough that Kris and his team works all night picking things up. We've got to enable technology to do this.
And there's just not enough of us. That's the problem. You just cannot maintain a security team big enough. We're all suffering from a little bit of skills shortage anyway. Okay. And couple that with this 24/7 job. The bad guys deliberately pick on long weekends and Christmas Eves in order to do their thing. If you think that you're going to be doing and responding with manpower alone, I think you're in for quite a big hiding. We need to be able to depend on good, meaningful technology to backfill on some of the volume of events that you're going to be seeing.
That's outstanding. And Kris, when we are looking at a technological approach, how did you, in order to be cyber savvy and in order to get this foundation and in order to start building your house around this, where do you start even looking at your top 3 areas that you would recommend that someone starts?
Start by understanding what it is that the bad guys are after. Think like a thief. That would be the main beginning. Understand your organization, understand what you have of value, and understand what it is that the bad guys would want to steal from you. I think once you understand that, and there are plenty of decision support tools.
I love that.
For that. When you understand that, then decide how they're going to do that. Try and understanding your organization, be honest about its weaknesses.
Okay.
Then start to map out how the bad guys are going to get to that information. And when you can imagine that, then you can start being able to ask the follow-up question. So how will I know when they're trying to do so?
Wow, that's gold. That's really good stuff, Kris. I really like that. I just want to run through that again. So in order for us to get a solid security framework that informs everyone, think like a thief. What do we have of value? How would they access that? So how would they get into us? And then how would we know that they're trying to get in there? So map out their path to the information and their path out. and then we can go from that. And if our users can think like that, then you've achieved what you want, is to get a tech savvy workforce, a security savvy workforce. I really like that. Kris, as I said, we wanted to get you for about 20-25 minutes here. We've already been going for a couple of minutes and you've dropped some pearls. But before we start winding down, what do you wish I'd asked you about security and being security savvy?
Well, one of the areas that I would wish to talk about, or that maybe I wish you had you could pick up on, is why haven't I said, what are you going to do to stop them?
Okay.
And that's maybe one of the bit of savvy that could come across negative, but is very important that we are realistic about it.
Okay.
The larger the organization you are that you manage, the more likely you are to suffer a security breach. It's almost impossible to have 100% security. In fact, it is impossible to be 100% secure. So you will note that in my response around those three kind of golden rules, in a sense, I didn't mention what you're going to do to stop them, but rather how are you going to know that they're trying?
Okay.
So, you can spend a hell of a lot of effort and a lot of time building in controls that actually just make it very difficult for people to do their job.
So we mustn't slow down. So security mustn't slow them down from doing work. We mustn't add friction to the business process, because we're going to get people are going to try and hack us anyway. I really think that's a good nugget. I'm glad I asked that. So security mustn't be a business inhibitor.
It shouldn't be. There will be some trade-offs, but as much as possible, the less sticky the process is, the more likely you are to actually be effective. That has proven itself over and over again.
Thank you. That's great. What do you think is the biggest challenge that CISOs will face in the next 18 months?
Pace. I think we are going to see a lot more attempts. I also think that in a connected world and in a connected enterprise, we need to be aware that, when our fences are raised high enough, that the return on investment for the hacker is no longer there. They may move onto our partners.
Oh, wow.
Or service providers.
Okay.
So we have areas where our data can be accessible somewhere else, where it's a lot easier. So one of the, I think, challenges that CISOs are going to face moving forward is that we're no longer being asked to just secure the enterprise, that we may need to start thinking about securing the ecosystem within which we operate. And that's going to be quite an interesting conversation, I think. We may have to reevaluate about how we work.
I love that concept. And I've put in here ecosystem security, and it's neighbor looking after neighbor. And I can't wait for that. I think the combined weight of our industry leaders can make a marked difference against this environment, against these bad people getting away with murder. I think that's awesome. Okay. You work in the tech space. You are very plugged into the tech space. What are you excited for coming down the line to enable you as a CISO in the next 6 to 12 months?
I look forward to the maturity behind data analytics.
Okay.
So and people call it in many different languages. There's threat intelligence, and there is threat analysis. There will be event analysis, and AI gets thrown into the pot, and machine learning and all of that stuff. But at the end of the day, that's just how the information gets processed.
Yeah.
What I am really excited about is that we are reaching an age where the data analytics component of cybersecurity and security management is starting to come to the fore. And I am really looking forward to that getting to the next level. In my dreams, I look for a system that can answer what if questions. Okay. And that's, I think it is emerging. It's starting to make its way into mainstream, and it's that ability to ask what if questions and analyze the responses that makes us even more capable of building a resilient organization. So that's the exciting part.
I like that. I think that's really, really exciting. Now, you do have a real job, and you don't just learn from the internet and attend conferences. We're coming to the end of the year. What is your specific focus for the next quarter? So leading into the end of this calendar year, and where are you driving your team towards?
So I'm going to be a little bit cautious around how I responded, right? By virtue of focus, one could also, this is where, one of the tougher areas of my job. I would love to share you with that, but it's a podcast, so the information can be shared to the bad guys too. So look, one of the biggest priorities for us is managing data loss. That's always been a key priority. So we're taking a very close look at how we use data and how we collaborate around data and how we protect it.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And then lastly, I mean, FNB, part of a fairly innovative group, you have access to a lot of tools and a lot of mind share. What advice would you have for a CISO who's maybe not as privileged as you are to work inside this big group environment? What would you give them as advice to be more cyber savvy and get the users more cyber savvy?
Build a network. The value of being connected with peers in your industry or even across industries cannot be underplayed. Have a friend to call.
Okay.
Is more valuable than any analyst report or any kind of access to consultancy that you can get. And choose your friends wisely, right? Understand who's
You sound like a parent. I had that chat the other day. Come on, Kris, that's fantastic. So choose your friends wisely. Don't make friends with the bad people, for all our listeners.
That's it.
Where do vendors play a role in that? Where do you see the sharing and learning from their side?
To a large extent, capability. They bring, capability in, use cases in, and I do appreciate some of the innovation coming through. It's allowed, and I'll always ask the vendors to allow us the space to apply the use case that they bring to the table in the context of the organization, and that being able to facilitate that conversation across industry or across multiple organizations, also one of the ways that vendors can assist. Even this very podcast itself is actually the realization of that. So there is a space where vendors are tuned into market or business needs. They capture those needs into products, and they deliver the products across multiple industries. So that in itself is a valuable aspect. I think allow the space for that particular product and its use case to be applied in the context of specific regional or organizational or industry demands, and what you have is a very good recipe for moving the space forward. So I think it's a bit of a generic answer, but it is linked to this choose your friends wisely component. It includes having a cross section of input. Be aware and be wise to what's possible, and vendors have a very important role to play in that through the technology. And I mentioned before, technology is so core to our ability to react and our ability to be effective. So those components go very much together.
I love that. Thank you very much, Kris. I think that's a good summary. Do you have anything else in summary for our Microfocus listeners that are on here about being cyber savvy and your way forward before I bid you a farewell?
If I can ask, listen to what's out there, but be critical of it. Understand that not everything you hear in the news is the truth, or gives you a complete perspective of what truth is. So that is very important, to be critical in the way you consume information, and be calm in the way you react to it.
I love that.
That would be the what I think is the critical component of being effective.
Thank you, Kris Budnik, the CISO for FirstRand Bank. Thank you for giving us time on our Microfocus podcast and for setting the foundation. And you've spoken about be calm about 6 or 7 times in my notes. And as the CISO, you have to be calm because everyone is panicking when they come to your door. And for our security officers out there who are doing such good work and doing such in adverse conditions, be calm, stay the journey, fight the fight. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. From my side, Daniel Robus, it's an absolute privilege to meet someone from FirstRand who speaks so highly about security and knowledgeable. And good luck on your journey and your battle to the end of the calendar year. May it be fruitful. And for me, I'm going to stop our podcast right now.